One of our dominant stories this morning is all these crimes committed by teens. In Tacoma, as we have been reporting, there were two teens who are accused of shooting a detective last week. They appeared before a judge yesterday. The parents of one of the boys pleaded for him to be released. That didn't happen. That was just one of many crimes, not just in Pierce County, but also in South Seattle, as you heard in Heather's newscast. And we asked someone that we like to use as a resource when we're looking for answers, and that is Sergeant Darren Moss with the Pierce County Sheriff's Department. Good morning, Sergeant Moss.
Good morning, Ursula. How are you guys doing today?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us. And I hate that it's on this particular topic, but I know that you have had conversations about this. What have you been seeing in this summer in particular when it comes to crimes committed by teens?
The biggest thing we're seeing is the types of crimes that our teens are committing. People ask me about the statistics, and I'm not really a numbers guy, and we don't differentiate our crimes by the age of the offender. Mostly we just tell you how many homicides we've had, how many aggravated assaults. So I don't have the number. I don't know if teen crime is up or down, but what I do know is that a lot of the really, really bad stuff you see on the news, it's all teenagers and young adults, and that's super concerning. Aggravated assaults, armed robberies, the burglaries where they break into the business with a vehicle, leave the stolen vehicle in it and jump in another stolen vehicle. When we find these people, they're all juvenile offenders, and that's just really concerning for us.
Why? In your opinion, brother, why is this happening now?
With what's gone on the past 3 years, it's, easy to make excuses. But I think there's a lot of things that have happened. With COVID, people talk about kids not having trauma from COVID, from not going to school for a year, for being in houses where there's domestic violence or something. They were around it all day instead of going to break and go into school. But we have lots of kids that have that same trauma in other areas of our county that aren't going out and committing these crimes. There's something going on in Tacoma and Parkland and our more urban areas where this is a trend for kids to go out and commit more and more crimes. Another thing that I'm seeing is that our court systems have been relying more on home monitoring or ankle monitors and things like that. And so the kids that steal a car, kids that commit a burglary, kids that are in possession of a stolen gun, they're not going to Raymond Hall. They're getting released and going back home. And unfortunately, sometimes those kids and when they reoffend, they don't always get caught. They steal another car, they don't get caught. They steal another car, they don't get caught. Well, then when they do get caught, now they've shot someone, they've burglarized a business and destroyed the front of the business, or they committed an armed robbery. And now those kids, that's the big thing that I'm concerned about, is they're finding out the way they can. They're getting locked up as an adult because they committed a very serious felony now, or they're getting shot and killed. And that's the last thing we need from our youth.
Sergeant Moss, you mentioned that going to Raymond Hall, and then they're not staying there. They're getting back out, committing more crimes. Why is it at this juncture that we're still seeing kids not being held in detention? What is the reason?
It's a system. We have our, law enforcement takes the kids in custody when we can find probable cause to arrest them. We bring them to there, but there's prosecutor's office, there's the judges, and there's also probation, and they all work together and make decisions on what happens with these kids. And honestly, I don't want to see kids get locked up forever. I don't think all kids need to be locked up for every single thing that they do. But right now, I think the message being sent is that, hey, if you're 14, 15, 16, they're not going to lock you up, so do whatever you need to do. I think that our criminals who are adults know this too, and they would, instead of them committing a crime, have a kid go do the same thing. He's not going to get punished as severely. So if I need somebody to hold a gun, give it to your nephew. You don't hold it because you're going to do time. But 17-year-old Johnny's not. I think that's another reason that we can look at. Now, I don't have a whole bunch of cases saying that, people in gangs are making kids do these crimes, so they don't have to. But I mean, just like with the stolen vehicle thing, they know we can't chase anymore. So every single crime, they're going to use a vehicle to try to get away to hope that we can't chase them. Same thing. If you can use a kid to commit a crime, do it because he's less likely to get punished for it.
Okay. Yeah, G mentioned that earlier today, too, about adults having the kids do it. Okay. So you've mentioned that you still feel like they know that that you guys as sheriff's deputies cannot do anything. Now, I just got a text message from one of our listeners named Sean, who lives in the Parkland area, who says his house was broken into November while his family slept. He says his wife and his wallets were stolen. The thieves used their credit cards at multiple Fred Meyers that morning. And when a Pierce County sheriff's deputy showed up, they didn't take any information and said this. He claims this is a quote. "I'll be honest with you. This is a blue state, so there's nothing that's going to be done about this." Is that a department policy? He wants to know. Okay, I just read it verbatim.
Not. And if I'm the supervisor, I want to know about my deputies saying these kind of things. This is not true. The biggest thing for us as being law enforcement is, I put out these videos about crimes that happen. I don't necessarily focus on what happens after we get them in custody. We do our job. The courts and probation and the juvenile justice center, they have to do their jobs. And I can't worry too much about that. Somebody commits a crime, I go out, I take the report, I do follow up if I got time to do it. Honestly, we don't have enough people to go follow up on financial crimes. So somebody burglarizes your house, we'll take the information. Hopefully our deputy will do a little bit of follow-up and see if there's surveillance footage of it. If there isn't, there's not going to be a detective assigned to every single fraud that's committed in the county. We have way too many homicides. We have way too many shootings. We have way too many serious crimes that our detectives have to be used for. So the financial crimes we're not going to be able to get to all the time. But at the bare minimum, our deputies should be taking reports, getting the information so we can document it. Because sometimes those same crooks that do that burglary, we find they match a description of a shooting or something else that we're looking at as well.
Hey, do me a favor. I want you to take off your sergeant uniform, and I'll take off my radio hat uniform. And this last question is really important because I'm an energy person, and I can hear your voice, and I can hear like you kind of tired, and I can hear where you're like, man, on the horizon, like things might really get bad. My question is very simple. Sergeant Moss, do you see things getting worse before they get better currently as you look at things right now?
If no one steps up to the plate, then they will absolutely get way worse than what it is right now. When I look at what's going on, I sit here and I go, the reporters that I talk to on the news are from all over the country, but Pierce County and Tacoma, we're not Chicago. We're not Philadelphia. We're not New York. We're not L.A. This stuff is not okay. Our crime rates should not be increasing. They should be going down. And we need everybody in the community, not just law enforcement, to make it better because these kids need something to do. They need someone to look up to. And they also need to be held accountable for the bad things that they're doing and be taught the right way to go about living their lives. And that's not just law enforcement. That's community members. That's churches. That's schools. That's everybody getting on board and saying, hey, we need to start taking care of our kids. Something's going on in our community.
Sergeant Moss, we are with you on that. And that's why we are having these conversations, much to the chagrin of some of our listeners, because it's hard to hear. But we all are in this together. We're affected by this, and we are all part of the solution.
Appreciate you, Sergeant Moss. Thank you, brother.
Thank you for having me on, and thank you for bringing me in with Dr. Dre to start with.
Oh, yeah.